bullshit, baby. You just haven't earned it, son.
Welcome to the Torchcast. This is your host, Kip Bybee, and today I have a special guest, Justin Austin. Hello, Justin.
Hello, Kip.
Justin is someone I met here early on in college. I think maybe freshman or sophomore year. Do you remember, Justin?
It would have been my sophomore year.
Okay. And Justin, what's your major?
My major is political economy.
That's a made-up name, though, right? You're in political science and econ?
Yes, it is, but I didn't want to say political science all the time because then people say, well, do you want to be a politician? And of course I do not.
Which Justin doesn't, and we'll get into that. Justin has some mannerisms and some passions that are off the beaten path. Would you say that's fair?
I would say that's more than fair.
Yes. So first thing is I have three things written down. The first one is econ, and I mean a lot of people are interested in economics. Not that weird. I mean, especially in college, people are majoring in that. But Justin's approach to economics is very different than the next guy's. Tell me about your philosophy.
As far as economics, Dr. Brandley got me involved in a very different school of economic thought. It's Austrian theory, the Austrian school. And that school, as opposed to the Keynesian view or the more classical approach, it's very free market and therefore very liberty oriented.
Yes.
And so it's not something that's found on most college campuses. It makes Ferris's campus very unique.
Right, and you post on your Facebook quite often about anarchy. So what does that mean to you, anarchy?
The idea of anarchy or anarchism, it's not the normal view of anarchism where you see the people in black outfits out burning trash cans in the streets like you see in the news. The true anarchists, like one person you can look at is J.R.R. Tolkien, who had anarchy-leaning views. Most anarchists are the intellectual, wearing suits and they have intellectual pursuits.
Yeah.
And the idea of anarchy is just not being ruled over coercively, having another sort of elite caste that rules over you, that like the federal government, that can use coercion to make you do things or to take from you. Taxes are an example.
Right.
And so it's just the idea that we are all equal individuals and that we should live voluntarily with one another. It's sort of another way of putting it is voluntarism.
Cool. Also, you've posted about is it Mises? It's
the Mises Institute.
Right. Tell me, you did classes there. What did you do there at the Mises Institute?
Yes, I actually, it's 2 years now. I attended Mises University at the Mises Institute, which is located in Auburn University in Alabama. And we learned about Austrian theory going back to Mises and even before him, but just sort of the trajectory of the Austrian theory, learning from the New Age Austrians, and also the ideals of liberty. And also Judge Napolitano teaches a constitutional law class.
Yeah, he's on Fox News quite a bit, right?
Yes, he is.
Yes.
Judge Napolitano is a very impressive individual.
He is, and I might be wrong, but I think I met him at CPAC last year. I can't remember. He was there at least. I don't remember if I shook his hand or not. But yeah, he's a real cool guy. All right, next thing, because we could talk about econ all day.
Yes.
Another thing Justin's passionate about is martinis, and he happens to be drinking a martini right now.
Yes,
so
I am.
Tell me all about what got you into martinis. It's such a strange thing to be interested in.
My friend Pedro, who actually attended my first Mises University, we both went to Ferris, and so we both went together. And one day he ended up making martinis, and I'd never had one before. And so it was just a very new experience. And interestingly enough, the martini is an American invention.
Really? It sounds Italian, martini.
Well, it's actually the vermouth comes from Italy, Turin, Italy.
Oh, okay.
And so that's the area that it originated. But vermouth is used along with gin to make the martini.
Yeah.
And so I do it more of the older style with more vermouth than is generally used in a martini.
Okay. One more thing about Justin. This is one of his mannerisms. It's very rare to see Justin on campus when he's not wearing a suit. Why do you wear a suit so much?
That's an interesting question. It's one that I get a lot. And I don't have, it's not one of those things where one day I was wearing jeans and a t-shirt and the next day I was wearing a suit. It was sort of a transition along with sort of my also like me embracing the principles of libertarianism and anarchism and Austrian theory. One day I just showed up. I wanted to be part of student government, and so I started dressing up, going to those meetings, and then after a while I liked the way I look.
Yeah.
Just like the Men's Warehouse commercials.
Right.
And and people, just the way they treated me, I liked it. They treated me a little bit better, so maybe it's a little bit of
suit, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to play devil's advocate and ask you, so you're really into, this is maybe reductive, but you're really into freedom and freedom of everything basically in the world, of economic freedom to do whatever you want. Is that fair?
That's fair.
Well, wouldn't a suit be kind of conforming to the society, a societal norm?
I would argue against that because at Ferris, that is certainly not the societal norm.
That's true.
But it's just it's a lifestyle choice that I've made, and it's not that much more expensive. Actually, I would argue it's not.
Well, if you go to Men's Warehouse,
yeah, you get the online deals, but it's not really, in my view, conforming because in a lot of ways it sort of sets me aside from everyone else, sort of self-alienation.
That's true, because you don't see many other people wearing a suit as much as you do, or even, professors don't. It's rare to see someone wearing a suit.
Right.
Okay. So let's move into news, and I'd like you to stick around and crack wise while we go through the stuff.
All right.
First of all, we have it's a tire fire week, and the tire fire is the insert that we have once a month that has some satirical articles in it, and it's really funny stuff. So pick up a torch this week and read the tire fire. I don't have any articles to talk about on the air since we're just doing normal news, but so yeah, make sure you do that. First news story: men's basketball wins the GLIAC championship. So that means they're going to move on and take on Grand Valley February 28th in Allendale, which is in 6 days from when we're recording this. That might be fun to go to.
Yeah. If I actually watch sports, that would definitely be enjoyable.
Yeah. I'm not a big sports fan either, but I grew up right next to Grand Valley, so maybe I'll go. Yeah, go revisit my childhood.
Exactly. They have a nice campus. That's all I know.
It's gorgeous. It really is. They have a downtown campus that's really nice, and they have the Allendale campus, which is really nice. But the one problem I would have with it is it's a little closed off.
Yes.
From society.
Yeah, it's a stark contrast between like the Pearl Street area and then you go onto the main campus.
Right. So let's see. Next thing we got here is Ferris. We in the paper we talked about the affirmative action plan. So the article's findings are about 92% of male professors are white, and 91% of female professors are white. Let's see. These professors are teaching students, of which 78% are white. I don't know why I said white like that.
White.
But also in the article it said it was illegal to set quotas for, you can't say we need this many black people, we need this many Asian people, this many white people. So that is not the goal of the affirmative action plan, but it is to make sure we have a diverse employee set.
Right.
So, I would say the student, it said 78% are white. That seems pretty close to reflective of Michigan's population, wouldn't you say? White? I don't know. I don't have the stats.
I would say that's about right, for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know the exact stats either. It's just interesting that the idea of quotas in anything, setting a quota, if it's for allowing professors in or allowing students in, it's just like quotas for like employment or like raising the price of an employee. Setting a quota is similar to raising the price. It would actually change the values of what the individuals were worth.
Right.
And so it's like raising the price for like talking about the wage gap, raising price for women. That would actually allow for discrimination against the individual.
Yeah.
The market, if you just allow the market to work, because we have a very socialized education system, just like we have a very socialized healthcare system, if you allow the free market to actually work, then these just looking at what you view as discriminatory, they would work out in the market, because the market is not discriminatory, because discrimination is not proper.
The only color the market sees is green.
Well, gold.
Yes. Green or gold. We're talking about money. So, interesting perspective, Justin. I totally agree with you. I think we should only be focused on people's merits as opposed to the color of their skin when hiring or letting people in our school.
Right.
So, all right. Let's see. Shooters is getting a makeover. Upstairs, they're making a new 21 and up section, which I think that'll be nice. Also, let's see, they have new DJ equipment that they're going to be installing, and there'll be a new renovated dance floor. I don't see you at Shooters very often, Justin. Do you go there?
If I'm going to drink, I'll generally avoid Shooters just because of the atmosphere. Let's just say it's not my kind of place.
Yeah, they don't have martinis there.
Right, they don't serve martinis there. I can make my own at home.
Yeah.
But if I go to a place, my favorite one is Schuberg's. Just being from the area, it's really nice.
Yeah, you are from Big Rapids, aren't you?
I am. I'm from the area. I went to high school here, and Schuberg's. You go there, get a burger, just relax. Go to the bar, get a couple of drinks. I love their bourbon there. Mm-hmm. So you can just sit there, relax with friends.
I am a bourbon guy.
Yeah, bourbon's very good.
Yes. Have you had Maker's 46?
I'm not a big Maker's Mark fan, but I have had it, and it was pretty good. But I know a few other better bourbons.
Well, there is Woodford Reserve, which is better.
Yes.
But I think I don't think it's $10 better, because it's $10 more to buy a fifth of Woodford Reserve than it is Maker's. I don't think the quality of Woodford is worth $10 more than over Maker's. That's my thought, at least.
For sure. If I was going to go for like that good sort of, I'd probably actually go Jameson, to be honest, because it's a little bit cheaper, even though it is the whiskey, but it's a little bit cheaper.
I don't mind Irish whiskey either. I really don't like Scotch, though.
I wouldn't. Have you had like a Glenlivet or
Glenmore? Yes, I've had that, and I've had only one more. I'm trying to remember what it was.
Johnny Walker, perhaps?
Well, I've had Johnny. When I turned 21, my friends bought me one of those 4 Horsemen shots, which is the Jose Cuervo.
That's not a good introduction.
Yeah, so it's Jose Cuervo, Johnny Walker, Jim Beam, and Jack Daniels all mixed. So that's the closest I've ever had to having Johnny Walker straight. But I had Dewar's. That's what I had on the rocks.
Okay.
I didn't like it. It tastes like rubber.
All right. Yeah, you have to get you got to be in the right mood. Honestly, it's all about mood when it comes to Scotch, I would say.
Yeah. If I wear a suit, I'd probably like Scotch more.
And the cigar is cute.
If I'm wearing a pair of gym shorts with a t-shirt, with a smelly t-shirt, drinking Scotch seems like a weird, ironic kind of juxtaposition.
Right.
So, all right, let's see. We got crimes of the week. Police stopped 2 people they suspected were fighting earlier in Merrill Travis, and it turns out they weren't the people that were fighting.
Huh?
So that's not a crime.
What do you know about that?
Yeah, it's good times. Possession of marijuana on Perry Avenue. We have a lot of marijuana this week. Last week we didn't have as much marijuana stuff.
So clearly we could reduce crime if we just legalized it.
That's in my notes. If marijuana was legal, this podcast would be about 10 minutes shorter, honestly.
So to save the podcast, we need more crimes.
I know. And there's a lot of people. And, hey, I'm not as libertarian as Justin, but I'm just saying there's a lot of people that are employed strictly because there's so many marijuana arrests. When I worked in the probation department, a good 45% of the people I saw go through were through because of marijuana possession. And there's people that jobs depend on people getting arrested. I mean, that's not good.
Right. They could be better used in a more productive market, for sure.
I agree. All right. So anyway, we have harassment complaint involving 2 roommates in East Campus Suites. They were separated for the night. Hopefully that worked out for them.
Yeah.
A guy with brights on was stopped and found to have marijuana on Kramer Circle.
His brights on.
His brights were on. That's why he got pulled over. You're not supposed to have your brights on in a populated area, where people are.
Right.
Let's see. We have marijuana in West Campus Apartments, marijuana in Travis Hall, report of marijuana in Vandercook, but none was found.
Unfortunately.
Sounds like they threw it in the toilet, flushed it, just like Goodfellas. That's a great scene from Goodfellas, by the way. Also, I forgot to bring this up at the beginning of the show. I've been thinking, we talked about Cobra last week, the Stallone movie from the 80s. I want to bring up a new Stallone movie every week. This week is Rocky 4. Have you seen Rocky 4, Justin?
I've seen part of the first one.
Oh, man.
I know. I need to watch them.
You should watch Rocky 4 because he goes to the Soviet Union and defeats the
I've seen the scene.
Communists. Yeah. And they, all the Soviets, and there are a lot of military people, turn on Ivan Drago and start cheering for Rocky because he's not fighting for his country. He's fighting for himself.
Right.
The individual.
It's a libertarian movie, secretly. Yes.
It is.
Apparently I do need to watch
Stallone's
this.
a conservative guy, I think.
I'm sure he is.
Yeah.
A lot of bigger actors are.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. report of... I already read that. Let's see. Fight in University Park Suites.
Hopefully it was a good one.
Yeah, there's not that many good reasons to fight. I can't think of very many. There's some, but there's not that many.
Yeah, they could be looking for an economic term. There's a better Kosian bargaining avenues.
Right? I mean, I don't know what that means, but it sounds right.
Just the idea of bargaining. There's some way. But it's interesting because if you have some sort of black market transaction, since there are no contracts, the only way to do it is through violence.
Right. So here's a good example.
Perhaps it was marijuana.
Here's a good example of a point where anarchy could go wrong. I want you to tell me why I'm wrong. Let's look at like New York mafia. They kind of police themselves. If you called the police and you're involved in the mafia, they'd kill you for calling the police. Basically, the mafia acted as their own police. They had their own little economy. They were selling this and that and providing this and that service. And when somebody got a loan from a mafia person, they would break your arm, break your knee, whatever. They'd use violence. How do you prevent that in a total libertarian system or total anarchist system?
Well, the problem there is you're using the black market example of like the mafia.
Mm-hmm.
And so the mafia, in a sense, is just like a sub-government. They act like a government. They're sort of that elite coercive caste.
Right.
And so if you had a greater voluntarist system, then you would have competing interests that would be able to give these loans.
Right. But how do you prevent in in a system where there's no government, as the high caste, as you, I don't remember how you put it.
The elite caste.
The elite caste.
Something like that.
What prevents people from making their own elite caste, as in like a crime family?
Well, the idea is you won't necessarily prevent it, just like you can't prevent governments from being tyrannical. It's the idea of competition. Just like if you have more companies out there, there's more competition, better prices, something like that. You'd have more competition.
Right.
People would be able to leave the area, form their own coalitions, essentially, against these mafia types. And so it's the competition that would be able to hopefully, maybe not prevent, but definitely combat.
Right.
Because these are things that would necessarily crop up here and there. But then again, the idea of collusion working, it's really difficult to have a mafia setting like that and have them not break apart.
Mm-hmm.
So
instead of going to the Genovese family, I could go to the Colombo family. As long as there's competition, I can pick the one that doesn't break my legs.
Also, it's looking at the idea of these mafias that are forming. It's interesting to note that these mafias actually formed just because you have prohibition. That was where all these mafias came from. They're selling illegal alcohol.
Or gambling being illegal, or prostitution being illegal.
Prostitution being illegal. A lot of these cropped up because of illegalities.
Right.
And it's actually the reason why these people are it's the idea of these goods are illegal, and so these things crop up. Sort of governments that are enforcing black market contracts, and so the black market governments, and so you bring these out into the open, and you don't have these mafias selling alcohol anymore. If you legalize marijuana, or even if you went to cocaine, heroin, you wouldn't have these cartels like they are now. Why would you have these mafias that are very expensive to run, honestly, and killing people is not a good source of business?
Right.
Why wouldn't you work out in the open? It would be a lot easier. It would be a lot easier to do private contracts and just work things out like that. Mm-hmm. If they were able to go out into the open, then I'm sure they would have done that instead of putting a bullet in someone's head.
Yeah, but I guess the question, I don't want to go too long on this, but I guess the question is, how do you enforce the contracts if there isn't courts set up behind them?
We've had, there are in fact private courts. I mean, in history, I don't exactly know a lot about this. I'm in law and econ, so hopefully I'll get to know it a lot more. But there in history, merchants had their own private courts to be able to Kosian bargain between nations working together in order to sort these things out. So private courts have existed. And in fact, people still bargain today. Yeah. And so you would be able to have these interests coming together and bargaining in one form or another. And generally, the idea of killing someone isn't really at the top of the list. You could have any other form of repayment because it's easier to just go ahead and get things sorted out. And the market always finds a way when it comes to these things.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get back to crimes. Sorry, we got off on a tangent, but it was interesting. Marijuana complaint in Travis Hall, but none was found. There was a fight at the Quad Cafe. Again, there's no reason to fight people. Let's just work it out. Let's do a private contract in a private court.
Especially a cafe.
Exactly. You're in a cafe.
Get a coffee and talk it out.
Exactly.
Or a martini, honestly.
Right. You don't really hear much. You don't hear about fights at cafes.
Oh no.
Cafe is where you go to chill.
Yeah.
Go to chillax. And then let's see, one not fun one. Not that any of those were fun, but domestic assault in West Campus Apartments. The male was put in jail. So good thing he went to jail, I guess.
Yes, for sure.
Let's see. Ferris is selling off some of his university vehicles. Apparently, Ferris holds an auction about 1 to 2 times a year. This last auction, they sold 12 out of 14 vehicles that were listed. And, that's all I got on it. I guess they don't need as many vehicles as they have, or they want to keep, updating their vehicles. I drove a university vehicle at a job I had, and it smelled really weird all the time. So, hopefully they sell the ones that smell weird, and they get ones that don't smell weird.
Hopefully. But they have new minivans for transportation. But they still smell weird, to be honest.
You ever driven a minivan?
I actually, unfortunately, my first vehicle was a truck. I absolutely loved it. My second vehicle was a minivan. And so I drove that for way too many years. And now I'm finally back into a good vehicle, a Cadillac.
Nice. So, I had a Cadillac. That was my first car, a Cadillac. I bought it for $2,000 at an auto auction. I want to say it was 87 CTSV. No, it wasn't. It was 87 LTS. I can't remember, but it was awesome. It was piss green.
Oh wow!
Had to put a couple bucks into the brakes.
I wish I could envision it, but unfortunately, I do not know cars.
Yeah, I used to be really into cars, but I've since lost my way. But I've actually come back a little bit. I really, really want one of those new Challengers, those Dodge Challengers.
Challengers are very nice.
They are.
I have a friend who works at McDonald's Chrysler, and he's always talking about getting a Challenger.
Nice.
So
I have a friend who works at McDonald's.
Really?
He's always talking about getting a Big Mac. But anyway, that's all we got for news. There's one opinion I wanted to touch on if we have time here. I think we should be fine. One person wrote about college students not having enough time in their day to get all their stuff done. Justin, do you feel like you have enough time to get everything you want to do done in a day?
Well, it's very difficult with the drinking, I suppose. But
as long as you schedule.
Right. As long as I sit down and actually do my work, I don't really find that there's any issue as far as getting things done. I mean, I wake up early in the morning, 7 o'clock, get ready for work at 9. I go and work for the English department, and then I go to class, and then I go home and I do my schoolwork, and then I get to bed at 10, 11. And I actually have an econ conference this weekend, and so I'm able to fit those things in.
Yeah.
I honestly feel like I have too much time sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm not really sure as far as not having enough time. It's about prioritizing.
That's true. By her own math, the person that wrote the article, she has 7 hours of day that are not taken up with being in class or being asleep. It seems like plenty of time to get other stuff done.
7 hours a day?
Yeah. I mean, nobody has 7 hours of homework in a day, unless you push it all to the end of the week or whatever.
Right. And that's, I'm assuming, during the actual week and not the weekend.
Yes, I think so. I don't have the paper in front of me. In my experience, some days are really busy, but on average, I feel like I'm not too super stressed about time.
Right. I mean, even today, I had a banking issue that I went and took care of, running all over town for about an hour, and I still got home and read my econ.
Yeah.
So I foresee no issue, but then again, some people are just overtaxed with a lot of their organizations that they're a part of, and I guess the biggest thing is to be able to say no, or at least be able to take flack when you don't go to a meeting.
Yeah, there was a book, I can't remember, I read it a long time ago, but it's really important to be able to say no. If your friend wants to go out for dinner and you don't have enough money, say no. If you don't have time, you have to be able to say no to social gatherings.
Right.
That's important.
I was reading, sadly enough, I was on Facebook wasting my time. But I saw a quick little blurb about 13 features that make up a successful person. And one of them is the ability to say no. And that's also in there with work ethic and priorities and having a long-term goal. So it's actually a very economic issue because the idea of being able to look ahead, seeing the long term,
right?
Looking at the long run as opposed to the short run. So you need to focus on the long run say no now. And then, I mean, if you have people that don't want to be your friend because you can't go and hang out one time,
Yeah.
then it's good to let those people go, and then you keep the people that actually matter, and that frees up your time.
Yeah, I think the ability to pass up on fun things now is kind of like let's say my friend Jake wants to go to Gypsy Nickel one afternoon, have a couple drinks. It's definitely fun to go do that, but being able to pass on that fun and the opportunity cost. I'm trying to use econ terms, but I'm not doing that well. Being able to pass that up for long-term fun, like let's say I'm able to get some homework done, and then I graduate on time, and I'm able to get a job. I mean, I think that's a sign of maturity, is to be able to look ahead instead of what's fun now. And I think
Right.
in the long term, your life, you look back on your life, I think it's better if you're able to pass up on the little joys, in favor of the big stuff.
For sure.
You get that
Because
slow
college-
drip happiness as opposed to just the rush.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's actually, it's a very Keynesian principle, the idea of like focusing on the short-term gains.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I go out tonight, it's like short-term gain. I could go to the new Shooters that newly
Right.
renovated and go hang out there. But for sure, tomorrow I will not feel well when I have to go and go to work in the morning.
That's true.
Be a little bit late.
Yeah. All right, Justin, I think that's all we got. So thanks so much for coming on.
All right, you're welcome.
And everyone, like and share the Torchcast. If you made it this far, you might as well like and share. And then go ahead and tell all your friends about it. Tell your mom about it. Tell your grandma about it. Tell your grandpa about it. Bring it up at your next Austrian economic theory meeting.
Absolutely.
And thanks so much for listening. We'll see you next week.